So I'm going to be recording all of my golf progress in this new series called Honest to Golf. Now, it's mostly going to be based in Australia, but before I go, I want to have one last spin around my local course, Ballyonus. This is a 9-hole course and you won't find a more challenging or better kept course for a €20 green fee. It's an honour box system, so just pop your money in the envelope and fire ahead. It's a cold, icy day in January, which makes for difficult playing conditions. And I'm going to be using the Nike Vapor Pro irons alongside the Nike Vapor driver. It's so icy that it's actually even hard to get the tee into the ground. So hole 1 is a par 4, 355 meters, about to hit my drive here now, and I push it straight right into the hill directly in front of me. I decide the best play is to just chip it back onto the fairway. This leaves me with about 100 to the green, and I decide to hit a pitching wedge, which I again push to the right, and leaves me with a nice little chip then towards the hole. So the greens are actually super icy today. The ball hits the green and bounces and rolls off the fringe. I was hopeful that I could hit a 5 to save a bogey, but it comes up short and leaves me with a double bogey for the first hole of the day. And I'm off to the second hole here. I'm hitting directly into the sun, so visibility is quite difficult. And after I hit that shot, I have absolutely no idea where it's landed. And thankfully I was able to find it about 100 yards from the green. I decided to hit a pitching wedge again. I hit a good shot, it bounces on the green, but because the greens are so icy, it hits the centre of the green and bounces off to the far side. So here I am trying to repair this pitch hole, bop over to the ball and chip it back towards the green. But again, because of the icy conditions, it hits the green and skids and nearly rolls off the end of the green. It's actually held up here by a bit of ice, so I decide I'm going to try and put it back as close as I can to the hole. This leaves me about 5 foot short, and I managed to make this putt here to save a bogey on this hole. So I'm 3 over after 2. So the next hole here is the par 5. So I actually hit a fairly decent drive off this one. It bounces a small bit right and into the rough, but the lie is pretty good. I'm able to hit a 3-wood out here close to the green. And I thought I hit a really good third shot. I was really happy with it until I got onto the green and I realised that again it had hit the green and bounced over. Now I actually had a pretty good lie here because it just rolled into it, but I was really afraid of hitting it back across the green and it rolling down this big hill at the end. So I hit a bad chip, it comes up short and leaves me with a pretty long putt to save par. I end up leaving that par putt very short. Which results in a 3 putt and gives me my second double bogey of the day. I actually hit a decent enough drive here on hole 4. I just managed to miss the sand trap. It leaves me with an interesting dilemma. Should I go for it up to the top of this hill or should I pitch to the bottom? I decide to go for it and I pull it slightly left. I was a bit worried about this shot, but thankfully as I walked up on it I could see that it was nicely set up in a position for me to chip. Thankfully I hit a pretty good chip here that kind of landed within about 5 meters of the hole, which I managed to hole out for my first par of the day. So we're coming up on the next hole here now, the old schoolhouse. As you can see, the conditions are still pretty icy underfoot. So this is a short par 4 here now, 271 meters. You'd really be looking to par this hole if you can get a good drive. And thankfully I do get a good drive on this hole. It lands about maybe 50 meters from the hole. And for some reason the camera has decided not to work. The setup I decided to use today was the Insta360 Go 2. But for whatever reason it doesn't work and I end up duffing this shot. And it leaves me with a fairly short chip then in. And thankfully I actually hit this chip really well and it lands within 5 foot of the hole, so it gives me a chance to save par. So after a decent putt, I managed to secure my second par of the day on this hole. So hole 6 is a par 3, 153 meters. I decided that I'm going to use an 8 iron for this one. So I ended up catching this very, very badly. skids along the surface and runs off to the back of the green. So I end up putting from the fringe, but I was fairly confident that I could still make par here. My first putt comes up fairly short, but I still have a good chance to make par. But I unfortunately dragged this putt too far to the left and I end up with a bogey. Hole 7 has a nice wide fairway for you to land your shot in, and I absolutely smoke my drive up the middle of this, leaving me with about 100 to the tee. I decide in these conditions that I'm going to hit a 9-iron, but I absolutely duff the 9-iron, take so much out of the ground, and I end up about 25 yards short of the green. From here I actually managed to hit a really good chip. I get it right up in the air and it lands within 10 meters of the hole, which gives me a fairly decent chance at rescuing a par on this one. But unfortunately my putting lets me down here a small bit and I just missed the hole to the left, so I end up with a bogey on 7. So I'm 7 through 7 now. And on to the 8th hole here, which is a par 3, 146 meters. I'm trying not to make the same mistake as I did with the last hole. Somehow I managed to duff this 8-iron and it pulls up about 25 meters short of the green, so I have to chip again. But thankfully my chipping has been quite good today, so I managed to get this up and over the sand trap and it lands within about 5 meters of the hole, which gives me a good chance to get my 3rd par of the day. And thankfully that putt falls, so it leaves me 7 through 8 holes. And finally on to the last hole here now, hole 9. So this is a par 4, 365 meters. I hit a really good low drive that runs a good bit down the fairway. And I'm really confident with a pitching wedge in hand, 100 meters from the green, that I'm going to nail this one. So I actually hit it really well, exactly where I wanted it to go. But because the greens are like ice today, it hits dead center of the green, bounces over the back, hits the wall, and thankfully stays in play. So my chips had been going pretty well today, so I decided for this one that I was going to try and chip it up nice and high and hopefully it would roll out fairly close to the green. Now the conditions underfoot were pretty sparse and I ended up catching it a bit too cleanly and it rolls off to the opposite side of the green and I'm putting from the fringes once again. Now I know I'm not going to be able to save a par from here, so all I'm thinking is get it close to the hole and hopefully you can save a bogey on this one. So thankfully it does get pretty close, but I'm under a lot of pressure because I do not want to finish on a double bogey. So I take my time over it and I manage to knock it in the hole and score a bogey on the last. So the sun is setting now, there's a beautiful pink sky and I actually don't think I'd have the chance to play another 9 holes even if I wanted to. But I'm happy that I got to play my last round in Ballyhonus before I head and get such beautiful conditions to play it in. So par for the front 9 is 35 and I ended up with 43 overall. So that was 2 double bogeys, 4 bogeys and 3 pars. Now, in fairness, the double bogeys were well deserved on my end. They were just like really bad 2 putts by me. Now I was a bit upset with 2 of the bogeys. I probably should have dropped those putts a bit better, but that's how it goes. And in terms of my overall performance, off the tee with my drives, I think I had about 6 out of 7 of my drives went pretty well. I hit my woods 3 times, so I think 2 out of my 3 woods went pretty well. My iron play was absolutely brutal. I had a 0 success ratio with that. Either my shots were too fat or hit the greens and bounced over, so I was pretty destitute with my irons today. However, my chips weren't too bad. 4 out of 9 I was able to get within 5 meters, and my putting then finally 17 putts overall. So on 2 holes I 3 putted, which is really unfortunate. I'm really going to try and cut those out now as the year goes on. So overall, not too bad of a performance, and I'm really looking forward to being able to compare this round with the next time I get to play Ballyhonus.